Streaming from the town, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
It looks like my Michael Jordan question is stumping people at NBC Sports California.
It's a good question.
It is. So
maybe, you know who know? Maybe Hembo will know the answer to it.
Later today, if you're watching the A's pregame show on NBC Sports, you'll be seeing me do my little hit, Townie's Takes. And I will have if I tell him, then people will know the answer.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to give it away then. Yeah, so don't ask.
Who cares? Do you know, Paul Hembekides, who gave up Michael Jordan's first professional hit?
Who gave up Michael Jordan's first professional hit? You know, I'm such a big baseball fan that I actually associate him much more with the Birmingham Barons than I do the Chicago Bulls. But I still don't know the answer to this question. I know Terry Francona was his manager. I know my partner at the time, Mike Greenberg, was actually by his side because he was covering Michael Jordan in the Bulls at the time. But I don't know the answer to this question. It didn't make our book, any of the chapters that Michael Jordan is occupying in our book. So I'm going to have to pass as this supposed trivia maestro on the worldwide leader in sports. What have you done?
I mean, seriously, it's not that hard.
I mean, this is something that you either know or you don't know. This is not something that you could deduce. I don't know who gave up Michael Jordan's first professional hit. It could be literally any pitcher from that time, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Fact. It is Scott Emerson, pitching coach for the Oakland Athletics.
Oh, I like the hook. Good play. You know what? That's going to have to be in the sequel. That's have to be in the sequel to Got Your Number. I like it very much.
By the way, where's the suit from Good Morning America?
If I'm allowed to be honest with you, Good Morning America was fun. I don't have any more fun, however, on any show than on A's Cast Live. I had the opportunity to come on here. I had the opportunity to talk about whatever I want. I had the opportunity to talk ball as nerdy as I want. Wearing the suit was cool. My wife and a fashion major friend of hers actually went out to Men's Warehouse without me to purchase exactly what I was wearing. That's how little faith and trust she has in me and my judgment and discernment.
Ultimately, you look great.
I look fine. I didn't make a fool of myself, and that's the objective here. Like, the objective here is not to find a new job. The objective here is not to do offer some profound answer that leaves the crowd stunned in silence. The objective here is not to bleep up, and I managed somehow, some way, not to bleep up.
You look drip, my friend.
Ripped, huh?
Drip.
Oh, drip. Is that what the kids are saying these days?
You're dripping, as the kids like to say. Well, that's what my kids say. So you were dripping, my friend. You look great. Got Your Number. Let's promote the book. I mean, last time we talked about it, we couldn't purchase it. Now we can purchase it. I see on Amazon, $20. I can get it delivered to the house. Got Your Number. What is the book? Why did you guys do it? And what am I getting? What am I reading when I get the book?
So first of all, I am infinitely grateful for the platform. You put me on the air way before it was cool, way before Good Morning America knew who I was, way before I was the co-author of a potential best-selling book. So you, my friend, are to thank first and foremost. If you are interested in my work, if you have ever enjoyed any stat that I have regurgitated or recited on this air, if you like my trivia questions on Get Up, if you like my commentary on ESPN Radio, I can assure you that this is the book for you. Obviously, if you are listening to this show, you're a big baseball fan, but you are also very likely a big sports fan. So let me give you the quick rundown of what we have done. This book, Got Your Number, has 100 chapters, 1 through 100. We have assigned, essentially for each chapter, who owns each number in sports, 1 through 100. So to give you a quick rundown, Babe Ruth is chapter 3. Michael Jordan is chapter 23. Wayne Gretzky is chapter 99. Jackie Robinson is chapter 42. These are obvious, right? These were super easy to pick and to wax rhapsodic about these legendary athletes. However, only 56 out of the 100 chapters are assigned or designated jersey numbers. There are 20 chapters for which we have attached records to athletes. There are 18 chapters attached to years and either teams or individual accomplishments in those years. And so it's kind of a spin-off of the idea, who is the best player to ever wear number X? That was just the very tip of the iceberg. And if you're a big baseball fan, I'll say this. I made sure baseball is properly and adequately represented in these 100 chapters. There are 20 chapters associated with baseball players. It is the second most common player type in our book. The only thing that we have more of, we have 24 football players, but we do have 20 baseball players. And if you're a fan of stats, if you're a fan of information, if you're a fan of trivia, honestly, more than anything else, if you're a fan of history, you're going to really, really like what you read in these pages. And I think that you are very likely to learn at least something in each of the 100 chapters that you read. Now, what do you think? How was that pitch? Did I do a good job of impersonating Greeny during that pitch?
Well, Mike Greenberg's a part of this.
Look, he did a really nice job in rearranging the contents of my emails and copy pasting them into the book. He did a great job with this, and he's a great pitch man.
I know who did this book, Paul.
Time out, because everyone makes that joke. I want to be honest and truthful. The best way to describe this are my numbers and his words, and the combination thereof have produced something that we're really, really excited about, because like you can tell stories in sports any number of ways. But obviously, like the sports writing tradition is something that we hold near and dear. But look, the statistics and numbers are the common language among sports fans. That is our vernacular. And so what we have done, I think, is a really clever way to kind of intersect the two, combine the two in creating a book that I think sports fans really, no matter how much you love sports, no matter how casually you might follow sports, no matter how much you know about numbers or how little you might know about numbers, I think it's going to be for you regardless of where you might fall.
So for you, like you just had twins. Now you're putting a book out. I mean, this is putting yourself out there. What was it like when you get the book and you're going on Good Morning America and everybody is now going to see this work? This is like having a third child.
Yes, I would say this book that I'm holding in my hands, at least so far, has been a lot more work than the two girls. Although my wife's going to be going off of leave sometime in May, at which point that will definitely be flipped. So I will definitely say this, though. When I held this thing in my hand for the first time, it was an incomparable feeling. Nothing compares to holding your children the moments they're born, obviously. But the ownership that I take over this and the pride with which I researched and helped write this is something that is really unlike anything that I can ever experience in my career. And you have given me, like many others now, the opportunity to talk about these things on the air. And I obviously love it. But you know me well, man. At my core, like my bones, the ethos of my career, I'm a researcher. I love the numbers. I love looking stuff up, and I love using them to tell stories. And so in that sense, it's kind of something I would consider my magnum opus. Like if you like my research, if you think the things that I say are clever or interesting or informative, I think this book is really, really going to shake you up. I think you'll like it a lot.
And on this show, you don't have to talk about LeBron, Tom Brady, or the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. We can talk about the fact that the Rays haven't lost a game yet. You can talk about the fact that the Phillies bullpen stinks on ice. We can talk about the fact that the Angels, who knows, maybe the Angels might wind up doing something this year. I wouldn't count on it, but we can talk about whatever we want in the world of baseball. What are you waving at me there?
That's the rally monkey.
Oh, the rally monkey. That thing's really shrunk over the years. My God.
All right, let's start with this. This is something that, who knows, you may write a book about in the future. This era of baseball where the rules have changed. I mean, we're so early in this, everything's real positive, but what this could do to baseball long term. So the instant impact, what do you think?
Well, I think so far that unless you are a troglodyte and you just can't, like, you just hate change no matter what change is, it's really hard to dispute that what Major League Baseball has done here has worked like a charm. So I ran the numbers, and most recently, the average 9-inning game this year is taking 2 hours and 36 minutes. It's shaved 27 minutes a day off of your life. Now, I am all good with the counter argument. I love baseball, and to me, more baseball is a good thing. Here's the problem. You're not getting any less baseball. You're getting nothing. You're getting less batting glove adjustment. You're getting less pitchers futzing around. You're getting less mound visits. Like, you're not missing anything. And in fact, it is my belief that the time of game is much less impactful on the product than the pace of play. Because right now, you have a ball in play every something like 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 2 years ago, it was once over every 4 minutes. Think about that. Just 2 years ago, a ball was put in play once every 4 minutes and some odd seconds. We've shaved more than 45 seconds off of that. Think about the number of batted balls in a game. The frequency with which stuff happens. That's what the point here, man. The point is stuff is happening more frequently. You're not as inclined to look down at your phone. Our attention spans have obviously shrunk because of the smartphone. Baseball is finally fielding a 21st century product, and I, for one, am here for it.
Well, and people would say to me, I don't want less baseball. I'm like, did we take innings away? Did we take outs away? We still have the exact same game. It's just faster. We haven't taken this. It was so hard for people to realize we're not taking any part of the game away. We're just doing it faster. And for some reason, some of these old writers still want to hold on to it. And they're like, oh, but what about the epic moments? I'm like, well, the biggest, most epic moments we have seen come in Super Bowls. And by the way, those are all timed.
I am sympathetic to the notion that some of these big moments in the postseason you would like to milk, you would like to let breathe. And I think
You just mentioned Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan played under a clock, and he's got the biggest moments we've ever seen.
Sure did. Like the Ohtani Trout moment in the WBC, people like to point to. What I would say is, if we lose any of that, like if we lose any of that late inning drama, any of that like tension, right? I think you more than make up for it in the fact that you're going to have younger people allowed to stay up and watch the end of World Series games for the first time in a generation. The fact that you're going to have more stuff happening and you're going to be more gripped and clutched by the action. To me, where this is going to be most magnified and most useful is actually in the postseason, because that's when the most eyeballs are going to be on it. And that's when young people are going to say to themselves, and casual fans of the sport that are just tuning in, wow, this is so much better than I remember. Over the last 5 years, the average World Series game has ended at 11:57 Eastern. That is not good enough.
No.
It's a completely absurd figure. We have to be done with it. What we have to do is again, 9 innings and 27 outs. Like you said, we're still playing. We haven't lost any baseball. We've lost a lot of nothing. And if you can find a way to get 2.5 days of your life back over the course of a season, a half an hour of your life back over the course of a single day, it's not just about the time, man. It's that the product within those 2 hours and 36 minutes has improved so much so. I think we'll continue to iron out the kinks. We'll see people like Manny Machado thrown out once a week for a little while, and people will raise a stink. But halfway through the season, you're going to wonder why we haven't been doing this for the last 20 years.
Yeah, no doubt. And the one thing that shocked me right out of the gate, and obviously this is just the first week, but looking at Babbitt, batting averages, balls put in play, it's definitely up, but it's up the most for right-handed hitters. I thought no shifting this is going to affect the lefties, and it has, but it's also really affected the righties.
It has, and it's affected everybody. Baseball is just a better game now, and there's more singles to be had. There's more surface area to be had, regardless of how you hit. I did do an interesting study and I looked at average launch angle, and I looked at average launch angle because I wanted to ask myself, have hitters adjusted to the fact that there is no shift to contend with? The right-handed hitters have about the same launch angle year over year. So while their batting average on balls in play is higher, it's not obvious that there has been a substantial change in approach. What is fascinating is that there is a massive data shift for left-handed hitters. I thought we would see individual lefties adjust. Like some of these kind of left-handed guys would say fringe power that used to just have to swing out of their shoes because otherwise they're not going to get a single in that hole, right? It's been league-wide. The average launch angle among left-handed hitters in totality is down by more than 1 degree. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but when you're surveying an entire league, that is a massive change. Again, we're only talking about 1 week of data, but what it demonstrates to me is that hitters and their hitting coaches have said to themselves, there are more hits available. We are going to change our approach. Overall, and this is what you're going to love the most, my friend, it is the most pronounced. That decline in average launch angle is most pronounced with 2 strikes. We have a 2-strike approach in baseball again.
Oh,
that is not to say that I'm not kidding. That is not to say that we won't see people swinging out of their shoes and out of their butts, right, with 2 strikes.
Oh, if we talk about this, we're going to get fired in baseball. A 2-strike.
Look, I'm not doing an interview to be an analytics staffer right now. I'm just telling you what the data say. I'm just telling you.
If you tell me people are starting, if you tell me people are starting to bunt more, I'm gonna have to start sharpening my resume.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to see many more bunts, but the fact that we're seeing left-handed hitters with 2 strikes, choke and poke, punch and Judy, have a day, kid.
Yeah, I mean, home runs still, you hit more home runs than the opposition, you win, but we're just seeing more action. You know, people forget we're in the entertainment business. We need entertainment, and watching guys just strike out and walk is boring. We're getting more entertainment.
Listen, Bill James is one of my favorites, the legendary sabermetrician, and his line I have stolen over and over and over and use it over and over and over. What he said was, baseball is meant to be enjoyed. It serves no other purpose. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's not be grinding the StatCast data to such a degree. And look, I'm a researcher, but let's calm down a little bit. Just because we have the information doesn't mean we have to hit ourselves over the head with it. If you want to merely enjoy baseball, then the product that they are fielding right now is considerably better. And while I agree with you that the preponderance of strikeouts and walks have not necessarily helped, I don't mind there being more walks this year, which there are. Pitchers are still adjusting to the pitch clock because you know what more walks means? More walks means more base runners. You know what more base runners means? More action and more scoring. I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
All right, and let's look at the AL East because the Athletics were taking on the Rays. They're undefeated. And if you look at the Rays and then you look at the AL East, because after this, the A's are going to Baltimore for 4. The AL East, the entirety of the division is really interesting.
I'm fascinated by it. So we know that there's going to be the staples near or at the top. It would seem very unlikely to me that the Yankees aren't going to win 90 games because they just have the infrastructure. It seems very unlikely to me also that Toronto won't get to 90 wins because they also have the infrastructure. And I think that pitching stuff is a lot better. By the way, parenthetically, back to your brain, I think Kevin Gausman has a really good chance to win the Cy Young. He might be the most impressive pitcher that I have watched so far this season, and his peripherals are excellent. But regarding the other teams in the division, it's going to take me a little while to sell myself on Boston because despite my now obsession with Masataka Yoshida, I think there's a lot of holes on that roster, especially when it comes to the pitching staff. I think they're going to finish 5th. But the two teams you mentioned in between are fascinating. I think the Rays are really good. I mean, I think that the Rays have the chance to be the best team in that whole league. I don't know that they'll do it. But what I do know is that starting rotation, 1 through 4, is diabolical. What I do know is that Wander Franco, if he plays 150 games, is going to give you 6 or 7 more. What I do know is that in 5 of the last 6 years, the Tampa Bay Rays have had the best winning percentage across the minor leagues. That is unbelievable. If you're able to turn over your talent like that year over year, it means you're a regenerative player development machine, and that's going to manifest at the big league level. When it comes to Baltimore, I'm obsessed with Adley Rutschman. And I'm telling you, man, it is my belief, and I'm just tangenting here, but look, you gave me the floor, so this is your problem. It is my belief that having a great catcher that can do everything is more valuable right this second than it has ever been in the history of Major League Baseball. Let's consider where we are. We are operating in an ecosystem in which there's still a home plate umpire and not a machine that calls balls and strikes, which means that your blocking and especially your framing matters as much as it ever has before. Right now, the league is stealing bases at an 81% clip, and stolen bases are way up. If you have a catcher, if you have JT Realmuto, if you have Adley Rutschman, if you have Wilson Contreras, if you have fill-in-the-blank stud that can really throw, and that person can single-handedly suppress the running game, you have all of a sudden added enormous value to your pitching staff and to your defense because you're not playing ring around the rosy every time someone gets on first base. Oh, and by the way, Adley Rutschman can hit with his eyes closed. JT Realmuto stole 20 bases last year. We could be living in a world in which a catcher wins the MVP this year in large part because if you can control the running game now and do all the other stuff, how could you possibly have more value? To me, the only person in baseball that could have more value than a superstar catcher is Shohei Ohtani. He's obviously a cheat code. But look at Realmuto and look at Rutschman as two guys who, if they stay healthy, could make a real push to win MVPs of their respective leagues because catcher matters more now than it ever has in the history of the sport.
And to give you a little more info on that, like a little inside baseball, like comparing the old catchers to today's catcher, you're dealing with way more pitchers, which means you've got to know every single guy. You got to know his heartbeat. You got to know his stuff. You got to know how he plays, what makes him comfortable when he's not comfortable. Ray Fosse talked to us about when they played the Dodgers in the World Series, they only used 5 pitchers, the A's did in the 70s. Now you're dealing with so many. And how many guys are coming up and down from AAA? Rays have been the king at that. So as a catcher, you got to keep knowing everything you just said, plus I got to handle this massive staff. These are the biggest pitching staffs we've ever seen.
Yes. It's like you're asking like an elementary school teacher to teach every single class. Oh, I have to keep track of all of these kids. Oh, by the way, I'm teaching them math and English and science and history and fill in the blank. A catcher's responsibility now across the game of baseball is incredibly vast. It's why I actually like the fact that despite the fact that I think Travis d'Arnaud is a top 10 catcher, Alex Anthopoulos said, we're going to trade for Sean Murphy too, right? Because you can't have too many good players at that position. And it's so physically demanding and it's so mentally demanding. I think you make an absolutely great point. If you can thrive in every area as a catcher right now, I think you can be the most valuable player in the whole freaking league.
Now switch to the NL East. You're obviously worried about your fighting Phils. Are you worried about the Mets? The A's are going to see the Mets right after this road trip.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see Justin Verlander pitch. It sounds like it's going to be the end of April when he comes around. I would be a little bit worried if I were a Mets fan. Not a lot, but a little. And I'll tell you why. They have built their team around veterans. Now, that could work. It most definitely could work. But what it means is that your roster is expensive. And it means that you're likely more prone to injury. Max Scherzer has not pitched well since August of last year. That's just the truth. Max Scherzer got lit up in the playoffs last year, and so far Max Scherzer has been flat as can be this season. I mean, people are spitting on his fastball. Every single home run, he had 3 home runs in Milwaukee a couple days ago, all of them on off-speed pitches, and back-to-back at bats. Right now, he's 11th in gopher balls. Carlos Carrasco, he's 36 years old. He's their number 3 starter. His stuff is really flat. His velocity was way down. 60%. Verlander, Scherzer, and Carrasco, 60% of that starting rotation, those guys are collecting Social Security. Now, they might be great. And in a perfect world, their championship run would look something like 0-1 in Arizona with Schilling and Johnson shoving every other night, right? It's not obvious to me that's a thing in baseball anymore. And while I think they can still play, they can still go. They don't have a big bopper in that lineup aside from Pete Alonso, so they're not going to out-homer you. Their bullpen is obviously deficient now without Edwin Diaz, who's not going to throw a single pitch for them this season. I think the Braves are the runaway favorite in that division, to be honest with you. I think the Braves are going to win that division and do so in a landslide.
And your Phils?
The Phillies I'm already worried about naturally, but I'm going to do the best I can to separate my emotion from the objective half of my brain, right? The half of my brain that got me on Good Morning America today. So here's the problem with the Phillies. Why did I just say that? That was a ridiculous thing to say. So here's my problem with the Phillies.
You're like this guy right here. Look at me. I was on Good Morning America today. Not cable TV, baby. I wasn't starring on cable. I was starring on network television.
That's right. No, but there's no show better than A's Cast Live. So I'll leave you with this. The Phillies are going to be okay because the Phillies lineup is going to score runs, and Bryce Harper is going to come back way sooner than anyone realizes. The Phillies starting rotation is going to be just fine too because Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are 2 of the 10 best starting pitchers on the planet when they're right. And I think Taijuan Walker and Ranger Suarez are going to do a nice job at filling out the 3 and 4 spots in that rotation. It's just been a bumpy ride so far. But here is my problem with the Phillies. I was promised by all my brethren that this is going to be the best bullpen they've had since 2011. And I looked at the roster and I said to myself, how in the world are you convincing yourself of that? All right, our closer is Sir Anthony Dominguez, who has never put a full season together. They traded way too much for Gregory Soto, who walks batters for fun, like it's a hobby of his. Craig Kimbrell hasn't found the same release point in literally 5 years, and those were their 2 big offseason acquisitions in the bullpen. So I asked, the Phillies bullpen has inherited 15 base runners this season, and 12 of them have scored. It's like, what exactly are we doing here? Like, that's not the ratio we want. 42% of guys that have faced the Phillies bullpen have reached base. That is absolutely ridiculous. So, again, we're talking about a weaker sample size, and I'm not going to freak out about it, but the bullpen is like special teams in football. It's the reason you can win or lose games. And over the course of a 162-game season, it could be the reason that you fail to realize your full potential.
The book has got your number. It is fantastic. You go right now to Amazon, $20 for the hardcover, $13 for the Kindle. It will come to you right away. I just got to tell you, we're going to pump this book for you, my friend, and I'm so proud of you. We've watched your career grow. We've watched your family grow, and life is good for the man they call Hembo.
You're a good man. You were on to me way before everyone else is and was, and I will say that is something that I will never forget for as long as I live. So I appreciate the platform. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope we get to do this again sometime really soon, my friend.
I'm the Scott Boras of talent when it comes to talking baseball.
You're a good man.
Great stuff, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Bye.